Thank you very much. Chaska High School Jazz Band 1. If everyone could go ahead and get seated, we'll get started this morning. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Ellen Bean. I'm a member of the City of Chaska Human Rights Commission. On behalf of the City of Chaska Human Rights Commission and the Southwest Metro Chamber of Commerce, welcome to the 3rd Annual Martin Luther King Human Rights Breakfast. It's amazing that we're already at our 3rd year, and it's wonderful to see this breakfast grow every year. Thank you so much to Dunn Brothers Coffee, Red Bench Bakery, El Paisano, Chaska High School Jazz Band 1, and members of the Chaska High School speech team for your support. You make this gathering special and possible. For the next hour, set aside the daily routine and be present in this moment. Be inspired by those who have dedicated their lives fighting for the rights of the underrepresented so that everyone can have equal and equitable opportunities. Let's ask ourselves, what can we do as a community as we strive toward the goal for everyone to feel welcome in Chaska? We're going to begin our morning by listening once again to our fabulous Chaska High School Jazz Band 1 under the direction of Adam Bessler as they perform Funtime by Sammy Nestico. Mr. Bessler. Thank you so much for that. Next, we're going to have, I'd like to introduce Corey Magstadt, the Executive Director and founder of Launch Ministry, who's going to provide us an opening thought. Thanks, Corey.
Good morning, everyone. Honored to be here. I was asked to give the invocation this morning, and I thought in honor of Dr. King that I would pray the prayer, one of the prayers that he prayed as well. So will you join with me in prayer, echoing Dr. King? Thou eternal God, out of whose absolute power and infinite intelligence the whole universe has come into being, we humbly confess that we have not loved thee with our hearts, souls, and minds, and we have not loved our neighbors as Christ loved us. We have all too often lived by our own selfish impulses rather than by the life of sacrificial love as revealed by Christ. We often give in order to receive. We love our friends and hate our enemies. We go the first mile but dare not travel the second. We forgive but dare not forget. And so as we look within ourselves, we are confronted with the appalling fact that the history of our lives is the history of an eternal revolt against you. But thou, O God, have mercy upon us. Forgive us for what we could have been but failed to be. Give us the intelligence to know your will. Give us the courage to do your will. Give us the devotion to love your will. In the name and spirit of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Corey. That's a pretty powerful selection you chose. Thank you. Please welcome next Chaska High School speech team member Ekaanth Veerkumar, and I practiced it. Ekaanth is a third-year member of the speech team as well as a member of the debate team. Ekaanth will be reading from Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, Our God is Marching On.
Today, I want to tell the city of Selma. Today, I want to say to the state of Alabama, and I want to say to the United States and the nations of the world that we are not about to turn around. We are on the move now. Yes, we are on the move, and no wave of racism can stop us. We are on the move now. The burning of our churches will not deter us. The bombing of our homes will not dissuade us. We are on the move now. The killing of our clergymen and the beating of them, the young people will not divert us. We are on the move now. The wanted release of their known murderers would not discourage us. We are on the move now, like an idea whose time has come. Not even the marching of mighty armies can halt us. We are on the move now. We are moving to the land of freedom. Let us therefore continue our triumphant march to the realization of the American dream. Let us march on segregated housing until every ghetto or social and economic depression dissolves, and Negroes and whites live side by side in decent, safe, and sanitary housing. Let us march on segregated schools until every vestige of segregated and inferior education becomes a thing of the past, and Negroes and whites study side by side in the socially healing context of the classroom. Let us march on poverty until no American parent has to skip a meal so that their children may eat. March on poverty until no starved man walks the streets of our cities and towns in search of jobs that do not no longer exist. Let us march on poverty until wrinkled stomachs in Mississippi are filled and the idle industries of Appalachia are realized and revitalized, and broken lives in sweltering ghettos are mended and remolded. Let us march on ballot boxes until race baiters disappear from the political arena, and let us march on ballot boxes until the salient misdeeds of bloodthirsty mobs will be transformed into the calculated good deeds of orderly citizens. And let us march on ballot boxes until the Wallaces of our nation tremble away in silence. And let us march on ballot boxes until we send to our city councils, state legislators, and the United States Congress men who will not fear to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with thy God. Let us march on ballot boxes until brotherhood becomes more than a meaningless word in an opening prayer, but the order of the day on every legislative agenda. And let us march on ballot boxes until all over Alabama, God's children will be able to walk the earth in decency and honor.
Wow, Ekaanth, I see why you're on the speech team, and I'm glad you are. Powerful message that reminds us that the march must and needs to continue. It is now my honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Josie Robinson Johnson. Dr. Johnson has dedicated her life as a champion for equality. She is a community leader, educator, and civil rights activist. Her legacy as a civil rights leader began in Houston, Texas, when as a teenager, she and her father canvassed neighborhoods to have signatures on an anti-poll tax petition. Dr. Johnson was part of the Minnesota delegation that marched on Washington and heard Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, "I Have a Dream." She joined the Wednesdays in Mississippi movement that consisted of small groups of women who traveled weekly to Mississippi to bring support and supplies to civil rights workers and families who were facing harassment and violence as they fought segregation. Dr. Johnson has developed fair housing and employment programs, led community development and revitalization efforts, and has launched many mentorship programs for young people of color. She has served as the acting director of the Minneapolis Urban League and is the first African American appointed to the University of Minnesota's Board of Regents. The University of Minnesota established the annual Josie Robinson Johnson Human Rights and Social Justice Award in her honor. Recently, I read an article that said, the secret of Dr. Johnson's leadership is that it is grounded in love and kindness, combined with grace and gentle tenacity. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Johnson.
Deeply honored to have been invited to come and share this wonderful celebration with you. And I feel so deeply honored. I want this high school band to know you are excellent. We must be very I know your director must feel very proud to have produced such an ingenious group of young people, and your willingness to share early on a day that should be free and sleeping late, but you're here. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. The young man who read, thank you. It was powerful. And for you at this juncture in your development to understand Dr. King, I thought you understood him. You sound like you were speaking on his behalf. So thank you very much. Good luck. Continue to be committed to his dream and his goal. I am honored to be here. I've never been to Chaska before. Lived in Minnesota all these years. My good friend, first black senator in the state of Minnesota, lives here but has never invited me to come to Chaska. So I'm really very pleased and thank you. What I'd like to do, my friends, is to share a little bit with you about Dr. King. I am blessed to have had the opportunity to know Dr. King. My younger brother worked with Dr. King for a period of time developing housing in Atlanta. My son-in-law is one of Dr. King's great supporters, both financially and spiritually, in the work in Atlanta, Georgia, and throughout the country. So I've had the blessing of being a part of that community that had a chance to know a real hero. I labored about how do we talk about today, 2020, when I think about from whence I have come and my people have come. And I want to tell you a little bit about some of what may be causing us to behave and think the way we do today in 2020. My ancestors came from one of the rich cultural sections of Africa. The slave masters who brought them here, and I pray most of you have had a chance to read some of our history, to know the passage and the treatment of my ancestors as they were brought from West Africa to the US of A. The need to understand the suffering of that generation in the passage. The number of people, men, women, children, who died on that trip. And you wonder about the story that needs to be told about that. So in my commitment and interest, having grown up in a family of activists, my father graduated from college in 1926 from a historic black college in Texas. He could not get a job equivalent to his training, and he wanted to go to law school, but there were no graduate programs in the South where my father could apply. So what he did was to do what many black men did in that period of our history. He became an employee of the railroad company. And my dad was a dining car waiter. And he organized the dining car waiters and became their chairperson and spokesperson. That was the community that my two brothers and I grew up in. My mother graduated from college in 1929. She was an educator. She taught many rich white women to read. And I went with her on many of those trips. And we'd go into the back door of those homes. This is in Texas, Houston, into their kitchen or the nearest room to the exit of the rear of the house. And I'd sit there listening to my mother as she taught those ladies to read. I grew up with a community of people who loved us. We had a range of skills and professions in my community. We had people who had faith in us, my brothers and me and others, students, children in our community. So I grew up with the sense of, I'm okay, that I am respected, protected, and loved. That environment, plus the work of my parents, gave me and my community a sense of belonging, worthy, and able. I went to college at the end of my high school training. I am a Roman Catholic and went to a grade kindergarten to 12, and then went to Fisk University, one of the first Black historic colleges in the South after emancipation. There was another environment of people who were geniuses in everything they did: music, religion, science, the arts. And so that was another learning and a sense of being a part of a community that had made contributions and continued to do that and produce in us, students, a sense of value and belonging and what's possible for a people. So I think about what I believe is required to make us all feel worthy, how we grow up in an environment that offers skill, love, support. And what I worry about in 2020 are the efforts that so many of us have attempted. I am just another layer of the struggle of our people and growing on the shoulders and the work of our ancestors. Many of the people here in your community understand that. They've grown from an environment of love and support to one that has become questioning of who we are and the contributions we can make. I have watched my friends. I'll be 90 this year, so I feel I have been fortunate to watch our communities grow. Having been a part of various efforts in legislative work that we believed meant change, and that if you work and pass a fair housing bill, we are a country of law, and therefore, people who can afford a piece of property will not be blocked from getting that piece of property. But you know, you learn, don't you, that here I was the chief lobbyist for fair housing in 1962. We were the first state in the nation to pass a fair housing bill. And I ask myself, as I drive around my community, did it matter? So you have to think about, how does it become so deeply etched in our fabric that many of the things we do are instinctive? So let me share with you what I think. I mentioned that our ancestors were brought from one of the richest part of Africa in language, culture, style, all different languages, different cultural experiences, and different methods of sharing that. They're brought in the most awful condition. We lost many of our ancestors in the passage. Those who survived then became slaves of those who brought them here. So the rich cultural difference was not something understood. And therefore, the treatment of our ancestors, the purpose was work. The purpose for bringing them here was to create the economic condition that this country needed. So our people were enslaved, and by that, I'm talking about a people who were forced to work on plantation land and beaten when they could not perform, imprisoned, denied opportunity to marry, to practice religious beliefs, and to remain as clusters of families, treating their children with the love and respect that parents give to their children. So much of what was done during that period was not only an economic denial and a sense of value denial, but it became a way for slave masters in white America to treat our people. Can you imagine interpreting the different cultural language, speaking, behavior as something that was told that we are inhuman, animal type deserved the treatment that was being administered to my ancestors? Can you imagine what that meant to people who before the passage had a sense of pride in culture, in language, in style? Brought, treated, then after so many generations of that kind of treatment and laws that began to suggest we were more than animals and laws of emancipation, then what the system does is to create laws and policies to justify the treatment that my ancestors received as slaves. So we were denied education. We were denied opportunity to marry, have a family. Denied opportunity for the quality and spiritual need that any human being must experience to feel whole and fulfilled. And my friends, that went on for quite a while. As a matter of fact, some of us believe it still goes on. And so, for many, there is a great need at this moment when Dr. King truly believed that people were better than what was being modeled before us all. He truly believed what our young reader read to us today. He believed that all you needed to do was to have information, pull on your spiritual beliefs, keep it going, and things would change. I just shared with you my age. I've been at this since I was 14. And what I am observing, my community, is that we are in a moment where I need you. I need you to remember what Dr. King lived and died for, his belief that our spirituality was strength, and that the history of our ancestral work would survive. We have many examples of people who have, in spite of a system that focused on denial, people who have been successful and have attempted to educate us all. I pray every day that my 3 great-grandchildren, who are now 2, 4, and 6, I think about the world that I'm sure my ancestors dreamed for me. And that's a world that allows you to be the best you can be. And not use artificial restrictions, telling our children that they are less than, treating them in ways that make them question who they are and from whence they've come. In a world where we are conditioned to some sort of deeply etched training about people who are different, who think differently, who look different, who solve problems differently. We're in a world where there's really a lot of misunderstanding and cause and effect. We are susceptible to many of the things, my community, that are said, that are not true, that are deeply etched misbeliefs, and who cause a lot of people to instinctively believe that we are indeed different, dangerous, unworthy. I pray that Dr. King's image, and again I share with you the great joy that I believe God gave me and my family to know Dr. King, to have been engaged, understood what the struggle was about. I pray you read, learn our American history, talk about it, be free to talk about the questions that are on the surface of every space we know, was deeply taught. The slave masters justified their treatment of my ancestors. And then when the law says you shouldn't, they then created laws and policies to enforce what they'd been doing forever. I pray that Dr. King's image of love, belief, respect, and commitment to justice will be reflected on all of us, and that we teach our children that they are loved, they have value, and we must respect that and love them. Do what I felt I received, and that's love from my community, segregated Black community in Texas, that taught me, my brothers, and our community that we had value. I pray that you will, in every way you can, show your love, your spiritual beliefs, your commitment to justice and fairness. And again, I thank you for inviting me here today. And I thank my friend Hetty Walls, who suffered through the weather and the roads to get me here safely today. And I appreciate all that you're doing. I've heard about you. You are proud of what you do, and your community is proud of you. Hang in there. These are hard times. And Ben, I know I'll be reading about you someday on whatever the top whatever programs are. Good luck to you all, and thank you very much.
Oh my goodness, that took the wind out of me. I am ever so thankful, Dr. Johnson, that you came today and that you accepted our invitation. Wow, wonderful. Once again, we're going to have the pleasure of hearing from our just spectacular Chaska High School Jazz Band 1 as they perform Go Tell It on the Mountain, arrangement by Alan Blaylock.
what can I say? Thank you so much. You guys are terrific. The Human Rights Commission has a mission. It is to proactively partner with government, business, educators, religious and service organizations to promote a community of harmony and respect for the rights and the dignity of all in the city of Chaska. Since 2011, the Commission annually has asked the community for nominations of an individual or an organization that has demonstrated a special effort to ensure that all Chaskans are treated fairly and have access to equal opportunity. Additionally, the nominees must also show dedication to ensure the social well-being of individuals. Our community is fortunate to have many dedicated individuals and organizations willing to choose Chaska as their home. In recognition of the efforts of individuals and organizations that have been given to Chaska, the Human Rights Commission asked prior year award winners to be here today. If you're here, please stand as I call your name, and we'll hold the applause to the end. For 2011, Jana Herbstritt. In 2012, the Guardian Angels Church Homebound Ministry, head by Ms. Halloran and Ms. Reef. 2013, the Reverend Gordon Stewart. 2014, the Gathering Place, St. John's Lutheran Church, Ms. Carol Affeldt and Reverend Matthew Berry. In 2015, the Blessed Bee Thrift Store, Ms. Carol Benetti, Ms. Sue Mueller, Ms. Garney Warner, and myself, Sarah Carlson. 2016, the Launch Ministry, represented by Corey Magstadt. 2017, Love in the Name of Christ, represented by Mr. Al Norby. 2018, Miss Libby Fairchild. And now to the 2019 nominees. I feel like, oh no, we're not on television. As in years past, the Human Rights Commission received a total of 5 nominees this year. Each of these nominees represented a substantial effort toward winning or preserving equality and justice for groups of people whose circumstances make them vulnerable to prejudice, discrimination, or injustice. Their work was described by their progressive actions, and I'd like to take a moment to introduce you to those individuals who were nominated for this year's award. And if you are here, I would ask you to stand. Ms. Stacy Nilsson Kumar. Mr. Eric Snyder for Learning Links. Mr. Chuck Lieber. Ms. Faith Blackstone. On behalf of the Chaska Human Rights Commission and the citizens of Chaska, thank you. Now I would like to tell you a little bit about the award winner for 2019. A leader, a mentor, a teacher, a motivator, and a community treasure are just a few of the words used to describe the recipient of the Human Rights Commission Award for 2019. After completing her work, her graduate work at the University of Nebraska, Barbara Colhapp was a teacher in the Carver Scott Cooperative, teaching English as a second language. she received the National Outstanding Basic Educator of the Year Award in 1986. Ms. Colhapp spoke of her teaching career. She said, "I happen to work out of a center which allows me to implement my philosophy that man cannot learn if he is physically or emotionally hurting." As she does today, Barbara looked beyond the individual, incorporating a holistic approach that helped her students learn in her classroom. The McKnight Foundation and the National Honor Fight Against Illiteracy acknowledged her contributions and dedication in 1988. When she wasn't teaching, she was a scout leader for both boys and girls, an election judge for the community of Chaska, a supporter of the Chaska of Friends Library, a member of the Carver County Health Partnership. In 2009, Ms. Colhapp was awarded the prestigious George C. Klein's Service Above Self Award for outstanding community service by the Chaska Rotary. She was appointed to serve as one of the charter members of the Chaska Human Rights Commission and guided the commission in setting the goals of partnering, gathering and disseminating, and promoting respect and continual development of a multicultural community. In 2011, she was awarded the Outstanding Senior Volunteer in Carver County, sponsored by the Minnesota Board of Aging. Barbara is always looking to stay involved and active with the issues that affect people's lives. When I asked her what part of her life she was most proud, her response was the leadership initiative for the Lodge Discussion Group, a twice-a-month discussion for active older adults. Her decades of service and dedication in advancing opportunity and human rights in our community is a model for all of us in continuing to integrate our community and create a desirable and inclusive community. Please welcome Ms. Barbara Colhapp as the recipient of the City of Chaska Human Rights Award for 2019.
Tell you what the Human Rights Commission does. I suspect most of you had no idea before you came today what the heck it is. It is not an advocacy group. It does not say the road should be here or the park should be there, but it comes from our heart. When the people come in and express an opinion, we don't say, yes, we can do that, or no. What a crazy idea you have for the city of Chaska. But we simply listen and take it into our being the right and the wrong thing for the community at the time. I never tired of being on the Human Rights Commission because there was always something new. We never knew what was going to pop up, what was on people's hearts, and what they wanted to express. And so that's why I stayed with the Human Rights Commission, even though most people had no idea what it was. So I am so honored to be here, to know that you all know now what the Human Rights Commission is, and you didn't when you came in. So thank you for coming, and maybe you too will become part of the Human Rights Commission. It's living. I suggest that you come, and when there is an opportunity to join a commission, that you honestly consider the Human Rights Commission, because you learn what's on the hearts of people, even though you don't have to advocate it or say, yes, you're right. But keep it in mind that it is living and viable. And thank you, Sarah, for the plaque and the fine introduction. I don't want to leave the podium until I'm sure you all have respect for the Human Rights Commission. Also, I want to add the Human Rights Commission is a good place to hear the gossip of the community because you know what's going on in their hearts.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. And again, congratulations, Barbara. I've just been privileged to serve with you on the commission. Now we're going to have you welcome Chaska High School speech team member, Sydney Turner. A junior at Chaska High School, Sydney has represented the speech team at state and national level. Sydney placed third at state in the poetry category in 2019. Sydney will be reading from Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech, The Other America. Sydney?
Now let me say finally that we have difficulties ahead, but I haven't despaired. Somehow I maintain hope in spite of hope. And I've talked about the difficulties and how hard the problems we will be as we tackle them. But I want to close by saying this afternoon that I still have faith in the future. And I still believe that these problems can be solved. And so I will not join anyone who will say that we still can't develop a coalition of conscience. I realize and understand the discontent and the agony and the disappointment and even the bitterness of those who feel that whites in America cannot be trusted. And I would be the first to say that there are all too many who are still guided by the racist ethos. And I am still convinced that there are many persons who are white of goodwill. And I'm happy to say that I see them every day in the student generation who cherish democratic principles and justice above principle, and who will stick with the cause of justice and the cause of civil rights and the cause of peace throughout the days ahead. And so I refuse to despair. I think we're going to achieve our freedom because however much America strays away from the ideals of justice, the goal of America is freedom. Abused and scorned though we may be, our destiny is tied up in the destiny of America. Before the Pilgrim Fathers landed at Plymouth, we were here. Before Jefferson etched across the pages of history the majestic words of the Declaration of Independence, we were here. Before the beautiful words of the Star-Spangled Banner were written, we were here. For more than 2 centuries, our forebears labored here without wages. They made cotton king. They built the homes of their masters in the midst of the most humiliating and oppressive conditions. And yet, out of a bottomless vitality, they continued to grow and develop. And I say that in the inexpressible cruelties of slavery couldn't stop us, the opposition that we now face, including the so-called white backlash, will surely fail. We're going to win our freedom because both the sacred heritage of our nation and the eternal will of the Almighty God are embodied in our echoing demands. And so I can still sing, "We shall overcome." We shall overcome because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. We shall overcome because Carlyle is right. No lie can live forever. We shall overcome because William Cullen Bryant is right. Truth crushed to earth will rise again. We shall overcome because James Russell Lowell is right. Truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yet that scaffold sways the future. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discourse of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to speed up the day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and live together as brothers and sisters all over this great nation. That will be a great day. That will be a great tomorrow. In the words of the scripture, to speak symbolically, that will be the day when the morning stars will sing together and the sons of God will shout for joy.
Thanks, Sydney. Hi, everyone. Wow, this is a full room. I'm Jen Welvaert, the current chair of the Chaska Human Rights Commission. I really want to thank you all for joining us this morning as we celebrate Dr. King. Martin Luther King, Jr. said, "Human progress is neither automatic or inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle. The tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals." And we have been blessed to spend time this morning with some real-life examples of individuals who have committed to advance justice and compassion for all of our neighbors. A special thank you to Dr. Josie Johnson for traveling out here on such a chilly morning today, and Miss Hetty for bringing her here. And your words and actions have given us a roadmap to living out the legacy of Dr. King's vision. And to Barbara Colhapp for the years of service and love that you have given to our community. We appreciate it so much. The Chaska Human Rights Commission and the Southwest Metro Chamber thank our speakers today, Ekaanth and Sydney from the Chaska High School speech team, Adam Bessler and the Chaska Jazz Band 1, and Pastor Corey Magstadt. All of us can do something to help transform Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream into reality. Volunteer. Stand up for someone when you see injustice. Donate time or treasure to organizations that support equality and fairness. Attend events or educational opportunities that create solidarity with our neighbors. In fact, I'd like to invite you to 3 opportunities coming up here in Chaska. Tonight you are invited to the annual Martin Luther King Jr. service at Shepherd of the Hill Presbyterian. It's at 7 o'clock and it includes speakers from our community, Dante Hughes, Donzel Leggett, and Pastor Dean Seal. Then save the date for Thursday, February 6th. Black History 365 Uncensored returns to the Chaska Event Center this year at 6 to 8 p.m. Come support students of color as they celebrate Black history through art, spoken word, music, theater, and dance. And then on Tuesday, February 18th, Marnita's Table will return to Chaska with Engage, a feast and conversation about getting involved in the community. There's flyers on the table if you'd like more information. In closing, I appreciate the community members, each of you, for attending today's breakfast. Together, we can help build a kinder, better world for ourselves and for our neighbors. I'll leave you with a Dr. King quote that has encouraged me to keep living out his dream. Commit yourselves to the noble struggle for human rights. You will make a greater person for yourself, a greater nation of your country, and a finer world to live in. Thank you all. We must keep going. Thank you.